So I haven't deployed to GitHub Pages in a while. Let's try that again. Yarn deploy. Let's see how all this doggone routing works on there. Now I know even after I republish, GitHub Pages takes a minute to actually get my changes, so I'll give it a sec. I bet it's going to be great, or we wouldn't be doing this. Let's see how it's doing. Okay, error during service worker registration. I don't know, whatever. Here are my notes. Clicky, clicky. All seems to work. My URLs are updating. Refresh the page. Explode! What? All right, so what is my URL? So for most of you, the URL is going to be my username.github.io/noteherder, right? For me, it's bootcamp18s1.fretless.com/noteherder. But the URL ends in /noteherder. But notice it immediately redirects me to /notes. Well, that's not a thing on this server. GitHub Pages is not configured to be able to deal with this kind of routing. If you look in the README for Create React App, this is just on the GitHub site for Create React App. This is a great resource. As you go forward, you'll want to check some things out in here. Everything about deployment is in here. So let's look under deployment, under GitHub Pages. Here we go. We did all those steps. But here, notes on client-side routing. GitHub Pages doesn't support routers that use the HTML5 push state history API under the hood. For example, React Router. This is because when there is a fresh page load for a URL like, let's say, /notes/some number, the GitHub Pages server returns 404 because it knows nothing of /notes/400 or whatever. If you want to add a router to a project based on blah, 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 a couple of solutions. So there's a couple of ways we can fix this. But basically, these are single page apps that we're making, even though it appears not to be. We're clicking around, the URL is changing, the screen is changing, but it's always index.html. That's the only actual index, that's the only actual HTML page in the entire site. It is a single page app. And we're just using routers to simulate multiple pages. But there's really only one page. So if you change the URL and you don't configure your server to just automatically route all requests to index.html, it's going to like look for a folder called notes with a file in it called 12345 or whatever. And that's how GitHub Pages is configured. And that doesn't work. So I bet this is just going to take forever to fix. Let's look. Notice this. When I click that deployment link, up here in my URL, that's tiny, and I can't zoom in, unfortunately, on that part. Oh, actually, now that I'm not using Apple TV, I bet I can. Totally can. Hot dog. See this hash deployment on the end? What's a hash in a URL mean? Anybody ever seen that before? What's it mean? Yeah? Yeah, it's like a link to a portion of that page. It's like a fragment. So the page is still just readme.md. But this will look for something with a name or ID of deployment on the page. So if you, if you're on just readme and you click hash deployment, it's going to scroll down to that part of the page. The point being, it doesn't actually change pages. The server isn't going to look for something named readme.md hash deployment. It knows the hash deployment is just a fragment, a page fragment. So it's going to get the file called readme.md and then just look for something with a name or ID of deployment on the page. So if all our routes came like after the hash at the end of a URL, it would just keep using index.html, and JavaScript, the routing software, could just use that how it wanted. If only React Router worked that way. If only we could convince it to work that way. Maybe if we ask really nicely, it will work that way. So index.js, we import browser router as router. What if we import HashRouter as router? Done. That's the whole thing. So browser router uses the HTML5 push state API with that history object and all that stuff. So you can actually add things to your history, make the back button keep working without actually changing pages. So really key for single page app frameworks like Angular or libraries like React. But old school, and this is how a lot of early Angular apps were configured this way because there weren't very many browsers that supported the other thing yet. They do this. So let's go to just localhost 3000 and notice it's localhost 3000 /notes. /notes /specific ID. So now it's just going to do it this way. So there's just a different component you can import, and React Router, the API, doesn't change a bit. You use it exactly the same way, you just import something different, and it works. So let's use HashRouter for GitHub pages. Run yarn deploy again. Give it a moment. Let's see if it works. Whoops. Still using the old one. Istanbul, Wisconsin. Come on. Come on, you can do it. Come on, update. Update. Hey, there it is. So now it's /noteherder /hash/notes. And I can navigate around, hit refresh, and it does the right thing. We fixed it. Go us. Questions about that? Pretty straightforward once you know what to do. Cool, now let's undo all of that.